Still need to get a new extractor.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new, only available for pre-order, Primary Arms SLX Classic Micro Red Dot. But before we get into the video, if you don't know, Gun.Deals is a website that provides you with links to some of the best products and prices in the industry. Whatever it happens to be that you're looking for, go ahead and check them out first. They probably have a link for it for the best possible price. Now, very importantly, they do not buy or sell anything. Once again, they can only point you in the right direction. So go ahead and check them out. Once again, that is Gun.Deals. Now, while you're here, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, as that is free and does help us out quite a bit. On top of that, go ahead and comment your favorite micro red dot in the comments down below. Now, getting into some specifics, this is again Primary Arms brand new SLX micro red dot. So this one here is designed for RMR / full size footprints. Basically, they have a couple different versions of this optic. So they have the RMR version, and then instead of the micro, they have the mini, which is the RMSC version. And recently they released the RS10. This one here is a Doctor / Noblex style. This one here has a few more features, and it's a little bit nicer and a little bit worse at the same time. It's also a little bit more expensive. Now, these optics, both the mini and the micro, are coming in at a very value-focused price point of $149. Now, when these eventually go up for sale in the middle of November for micro red dots, I believe they will be some of, if not the cheapest options on the market from a major manufacturer like Primary Arms. Now, with the question of how much did they cut in costs, of course, we have to ask how much did they cut in performance and durability. Now, before we get into all of that, we do need to go over just some basic specifications on the optic. So, of course, on the SLX Micro, this one here is made out of 6061 T6 aluminum versus the much stronger 7075 T6 aluminum. So it is a little bit of a cheaper material there, and it comes in at right at 1 ounce. Now, this one here is, again, the full-size RMR footprint. It has a fairly decently sized window of 17 by 24 millimeters, though it is certainly not the largest window on the market. In fact, the 507C, 407Cs do have a slightly larger, slightly taller window size. Now, that being said, on this Comp Glock 17 Gen 3, this one here is going to be very easy to track the dot through recoil because the dot really never leaves the window. But again, for smaller guns, snappier guns, non-comped guns as well, the smaller window size can be a little bit more finicky, especially if you're not somebody who shoots with dots all the time. Now, externally on the SLX Micro, the adjustments are very easy. So you have a up arrow and a down arrow for adjusting your illumination. You have 10 different illumination settings and a rated battery life of 40,000 hours on a medium setting, with a bottom loading 2032, meaning that when you need to change the battery, you will of course have to take the optic off, switch out the battery, put the optic back on, and then re-zero if there's any point of impact shift, which there probably will be some. Now, very interesting, this has auto off, but not auto on. So that 40,000 hours of battery life will be a very long time if you're not using it. However, every time you pick it up, you need to push either the up or the down arrow to get that reticle to turn back on. Now, I believe the auto off time is extensive. I believe it's 8 hours or 12 hours. I didn't see exactly where that was in the literature, but again, it does have a fairly long auto off time. So if you pick this up, you're carrying it around, mess with the illumination settings up and down, or set it to your preferable setting, and it's going to stay on for a long period of time. But again, just keep in mind that after a certain amount of time, the optic will automatically turn off. Now, while I was out on the range with this, I'm not sure if the auto off is motion sensitive, so basically it won't turn off if it senses motion for a certain amount of time. For instance, out of the 3 range trips that I've had this optic on this gun, it has not shut off automatically during like 5 to 8 hours on the range. And again, I'm not sure if that's just also because I'm messing with the brightness settings occasionally, or if it senses motion and it won't turn off automatically, or if it's just a set amount of time, again, like 8 or 12 hours. But again, if you're going to carry this optic, that might make you a little bit nervous, so you might be playing with the illumination settings every couple of hours to make sure that it doesn't turn off on you. Now, unfortunately, the adjustment on the winded end elevation utilizes a very, very small Allen key Now, fortunately, they provide that Allen key, which you will inevitably lose in the first 5 minutes. However, it does use a very, very small Allen key, which is annoying, and on top of that, they don't have really any tactile clicks, so there's a little bit of trial and error concerning zeroing. However, as we'll get into later on, it actually did hold zero very well, even during a drop test, which I kind of expected to kill the Optic.
Dirt and rocks.
Now, getting into the actual dot and glass quality itself, it definitely does have a fairly noticeable blue tint to it. It also definitely has some warping and magnification to it. If you move it around in front of you, you can definitely tell the picture is shifting around quite a bit. It's actually perfectly fine for a micro red dot. Most red dots, especially something like the 507C, will have a very similar effect. In fact, this is actually worse than the SLX Micro. So as far as the glass quality goes and image, it's perfectly fine. It's not exceptional by any means, but it is perfectly fine for this segment of optics. Now, the dot itself somehow is actually much better than what they include on their more expensive RS10. And the emitter is also better as well. So it uses a 3 MOA dot, which is perfectly precise enough for all pistol work, basically inside of 100 or 200 yards. It does get bright. However, on maximum brightness outside in full daylight, there are certain times where I wish it had one additional brightness setting. Again, for 99% of the time, it definitely gets bright enough, and it was certainly usable. But again, for me personally, there were times when I wish it had one additional brightness setting. Now, that being said, the dot itself is actually very uniform. It's very precise. It's a very nice looking 3 MOA dot. On top of that, the emitter refresh rate is very good. So even on lower brightness settings, the emitter refresh rate is still very good. It's a very constant laser-like beam. Versus, again, the more expensive RS10 has a very poor emitter refresh rate, like it's very bad, very noticeable at all illumination settings. Yes, it does get a little bit brighter, but the illumination or the refresh rate is literally much worse than, again, the cheaper SLX Micro.
Oh, one of the screws just came flying out.
Now, before we get into usability and durability on the SLX Micro, one very minor gripe that I did have is that in the box, Primary Arms only included 2 different sets of screws, a very, very short set that was basically unusable, and then a very long set, which you could, of course, shave down to fit your specific slide, adapter plate, what have you. So I had to go out and pick up other screws because I didn't really want to shave screws down to fit this specific gun. So I had to go out and get other screws that actually fit perfectly. Not a big deal, but just something worth mentioning. And if you pick one of these guys up, you might need to pick up some extra screws as well. Now, getting into actually using the Optic, again, outside of those very few scenarios where I did want an extra brightness setting in full direct sunlight, it was a very usable optic to use. It's very fast to pick up. It has a decent sized window. It's not really what I would consider to be a large window whatsoever. And again, there are going to be other full-size optics that do have a much larger window size, which in general is going to be a little bit more forgiving, a little bit easier to use. However, again, if you get used to it, the SLX Micro is not bad by any means, and there are certainly smaller optics out there as well. The glass quality, the dot quality, all of that looks very good. The emitter refresh rate is also very good as well. Again, the only minor gripe when it comes to usability of the Optic is I do wish that it had a additional brightness setting. Now, getting into the durability on the SLX Micro, I wasn't really sure if I was even going to do a drop test, as the hood design is very thin and it's just made out of 60-61 as opposed to the much higher strength to weight ratio 70-75. So I wasn't really even sure if I was going to do a drop test in the first place. However, Primary Arms does say that this is a, durable optic with a lifetime warranty and what have you, suited for concealed carry and performance shooting competition, what have you. So I wanted to see if it would hold up to at least a simple drop test. So I did a shoulder height drop test onto dirt and rocks directly on top of the Optic, and it passed with flying colors in terms of its durability. Now, before the drop, I did a 5-round control group at about 12 yards standing. You will see a couple flyers in there. That's just me. After the drop test, just a single drop from, again, shoulder height onto dirt and rocks, I did another 5-round group at, again, 12 yards. And again, you could ignore the flyers because those are just me. So in terms of, one, its durability, for a fairly hard drop, it's not the hardest drop you can do with an Optic, but it's also a lot more than most people will probably experience with their concealed carry handguns. It survived the drop perfectly fine, and it also retained zero basically perfectly, so I really don't have any complaints about its durability. So, when we talk about its features in relation to its price, I think that it is priced accordingly, again, as one of the cheapest micro-style optics from a full manufacturer like Primary Arms. It has a lot of good features, good battery life, good dot quality, good glass quality. Durability is at least decent, zero retention, also at least decent. I think auto off, auto on would be an awesome feature to have, and I think if it had an additional brightness level, it would be basically perfect. And those are some of the sacrifices you're going to make when you get a micro red dot that has, again, a good level of performance, this inexpensive. So this is going to be an optic that I think is going to be a lot of people's first optics. It's definitely not a perfect optic by any means in terms of a pistol red dot, but I think for a lot of people this can make sense as a entry-level initial red dot, their first red dot handgun, what have you. That can make a lot of sense. I certainly would not side grade to this from another red dot, like if you already have a Holosun 407, 507, really any of the Holosuns for that matter. I really don't see a reason to side grade to this or to switch to this red dot. What this is a very good entry-level red dot that has a good level of performance when compared to its price. It's not really something that you should all run out and go grab, but if you're looking for an entry-level red dot, your first red dot on a handgun, what have you, this is a very good starting point that again gives you 90-95% of the performance of much more expensive red dots. Certainly not perfect, not for everyone, but again, as that entry-level red dot, I think it does a good job of filling that niche. So, with all that out of the way, guys, let me know what you guys think of the SLX Micro Red Dot from Primary Arms. And with all that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.